What's going on, guys? I am the Bad Duck and you are the internet, and welcome back to another video. Today is the review for the movie X. X came out last week in March 18th. It came out. This was an interesting one. I was actually really hyped for this movie. I was really excited for it. So this is directed by Ty West, who also did VHS and a bunch of other films that I have not heard of. I heard VHS is really good. Just haven't gotten around to watching it. But yeah, this movie was kind of like on the high of like my board to watch this year, because it is an A24 film and it had to do a lot with adult film making and kind of like this, like I felt like a message of like sex and sexuality was going to be throughout, and a lot of times those themes in movies are really popular and really they actually say something that I think needs to be said. So I was like really excited to watch this movie, but I sat in this movie and I immediately felt something wrong, and I don't know what it was. I really do not know what it was. Let's start off with the good things. I think there's a lot less good things to say about this movie than bad, and I don't like saying that, but it's how I feel. The good things about this movie is that the gore is amazing. There's a lot of gory kills, a lot of good gore, a lot of good effects that have been used throughout this movie. There's a couple of scenes that I could not look at just because of how like disgusting. They use it to the fullest effect. They really go hard out with all these kills, except for one kill I really didn't like because it was just kind of bland. The humor in this is great. They use a lot of what I like to call dick humor. I think it's appropriate for this movie. A lot of dick humor is not really properly used, but here it's used properly just because of the events that are going on throughout the film, especially with the porno that they're using. So the humor, it goes a long way, and it's very well done. The humor is great in this film. A few of the characters really stand out, and they really are very popular with me. Not to take away from this movie, there's not a lot I can say that is good. I can say it's okay, but a lot of this movie just feels like it's not good. It's just like an okay film in my opinion. Feel free to your own opinion, but I just don't feel like it's a good film. And I don't like saying that because I think that every film deserves a shot and deserves to be identified as a good film, but I just don't. Yeah, let's just okay, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie. I know it's really early on in the review, but I need to talk about a lot of the spoilerly stuff. So if you haven't watched the movie, click off. If you really don't care, continue watching, see what I have to say. But yeah, it's not going to be very kind. This movie, it gets into a point where I'm fine with slow and creepy stuff. But they use the creepy in a different way. So I already said spoiler, so I'll go into it. There's a few scenes with the grandma character. I don't know what her name is. I'm just gonna call her Grandma. Grandma is sexually frustrated as a 90-year-old woman. I mean, her husband probably doesn't use pecker like they say in the movie. And that's her reason for killing, apparently. And she gets all creepy with all these people in not a good way, where like there's a couple of good scenes of her creeping around the farm, around what they were doing, but most of the film she's just like touching people inappropriately, and I understand that's the point of it's supposed to be creepy through that, but it didn't feel like creepy where like, oh, I'm like, oh no, and I'm like that, and that's more like, I don't want to see this. It just felt unnecessary. It felt unneeded. It just felt gross. And maybe that was the point of it, is that it felt gross. But like, no. And it's just this felt like it was like it was a Texas Chainsaw like script, and I think it works for Texas Chainsaw, but it's not a Texas Chainsaw film, and it didn't advertise itself as a Texas Chainsaw film. And if you insert a lot of things in Texas Chainsaw, this film would have been, I would be like, this is the best Texas Chainsaw since the original. But it's not a Texas Chainsaw film, so I can't really like say it's a good Texas Chainsaw film, but it is. And it works for that identity of a Texas Chainsaw film, but it does not work here. This is supposed to be an exploitation film, but it doesn't feel like an exploitation film. It feels like a gross distortion of what it was wanted to be. And I saw what it could have been through the advertisement. I saw what, like, oh, I can see where this is going, but it did not do it properly. This movie is painfully slow. It's an hour 45, and that's an easy sit through for me. Really easy. But this movie feels like it's approaching 3 hours. So from the beginning of the movie to around where the first kill happens, I'm okay with how that starts out because it's creepy and but it moves swiftly. It knows what it's doing. It knows where it's going, and I can feel it. It's just going. It's going with the flow. And after that first kill, it drags its feet. It feels like they're pulling a body with this movie, and that's a bad thing to do. Like, I just, in general, like, I don't even know when that happens because I didn't give time for it, but yeah, it feels like the next like half hour is 2 hours of film, and it felt unneeded. It felt like it could have gone much faster. Like, it needed to pick up the pace. They were just dawdling around doing nothing, and it like the first bit of the film, where before the first kill happens, I'm really into it. I'm like, this is gonna be a good film. This is fine. It's creepy. It's like, when we get the first one for this is gonna fucking balls to the wall, and I'm gonna love it. But it doesn't do that. It kills the first person off and then just stops. It just stops. And they use these small little points in the film. Like, they mentioned that the grandma was a dancer when she was younger, and then she dances after the first kill, but never goes on to use anything after that. It's just like, oh, let's set up this really creepy scene. Sure, but you're not going to use it in any payoff that's proper. So that was unneeded. They do use a lot of Chekhov's guns, which is very important. Literally, they use a Chekhov's gun. If you don't know what a Chekhov's gun is that if you put a shotgun in the first act on a mantle, in the third act it should go off. With the revolver, the main executive producer dude was like, oh, I keep it in my glove box so it's never loaded, it's just to intimidate people. Eventually at the end of the movie it's not loaded, and I knew that because I paid attention to that part of the film, but the rest of the part of the film I didn't really pay attention to because it just dragged its feet. The actual shotgun was literally a Chekhov's gun. I waited for it to go off, and it eventually did, and that's the most boring kill of the movie. I don't know what to say. This movie just... I see what it wanted to be, but I don't see... And I feel like they just took a script that should have been Texas Chainsaw, and they moved a little bit around, and then just kind of went back to it, and just like, oh yeah, this is not a Texas Chainsaw movie, and it would have been better than the Texas Chainsaw that came out. But yeah, it's just, if it's a boring movie, or I didn't find myself... It's Ty West, or it was the acting, because all the characters in this movie just kind of suck. I have one character I like, and he's still a shitty person, and I don't want to root for any of these people. I don't want to root for the villain. Like, if you make shitty characters as your main characters, you want to root for the villain. Think Michael Myers and any other one that doesn't feature Jamie Lee Curtis. think Scream 3. I didn't care for anyone, those people who died, so I rooted for Ghostface. But here, I don't like any of the characters besides one of them, and he's still a fucking asshole. I wish I don't like him. I just like how he's acted. And I don't like the villains, because the villains don't feel like they have any stake. They don't feel like they have a motive dependent on. It's because they're horny, and I don't like that because it doesn't tell us anything. It slows itself down to go through this small arc about this grandma being a horny and her husband can't do it because it's a heart issue. And what are we supposed to do with that? It's a useless thing for us, because what are we supposed to root for? The grandma hooking up with one of the younger people? No, that's because we saw what she tried to do, and it was creepy, and I didn't like it. I felt gross. I felt like I needed to take a shower after it, and maybe that's the point of the movie. Maybe I just don't like it. Maybe that's just not a movie for me, and it could be. It's I don't know. Maybe it's not a movie for me. In the purest terms possible, it's not a movie for me. Maybe, which upsets me. But as for some people, I see grand praise for this all over, but I just feel like this is like comparable to The Visit in a worse way, because I knew The Visit was gonna be weird and probably because it's M. Night Shyamalan. But this one I was like, oh, it's A24 making a movie that has to do with the porn industry, has to deal with sexuality, and like the boomers, they're not boomers because they're before that, but the silent generation was like, oh, this is terrible, you shouldn't be doing this, blah blah. And I was really hyped for it because it's like, oh, we're gonna have some comments on some generation divide, which they do, but it's not generation divide. It's not what they're talking about in this. They're talking about Christian values, and I'm like, oh, we're just ruining this movie with religion. And I mean, just relieve the religion out of this, because it didn't need to be there. It could have just been like, oh, this is not how we did it back in our day. I don't know. I just don't see this as a good movie, and I don't like that. I didn't see it as a good movie, but it is what it is. If you like this, good for you. Just the pacing's a love. The kills are good. The kills are really, really good. But not nothing else about this film I didn't like. Yeah. It just, a lot of the decisions that were made during this movie did not feel like it was needed or should have been made. And again, like I said, it does upset me that I didn't like this movie, but I didn't. And it's lower ranking on my list. I'd probably actually drop it from, I was sitting watching this yesterday. I was like, oh, this is probably better than the Adam Project that I watched last week. No, no. I drop it a few points after thinking about it. It did creep me out. It did scare me, but that's because I have an irrational fear that was explored in this film. But that's a completely different story for that. But yeah, I don't know. It's not for me. That's all I can say. In the grand scheme of things, it's not for me. And but I do want you guys to go watch it, just because it's not for me, it doesn't mean it's not for you. So I mean, take a look at least. But yeah, if you don't like slow movies, don't watch this. I was good with the slow parts of this movie until the kill, and then they just slowly go through each and everything, and it's just it just bored me. I shouldn't recuperate from this, because think of it kind of like Vivitch, where it's a very slow build up. Vivitch is, I think, about 2 hours long, and it builds up for about an hour and a half of that. But the moment you hit that last half hour, it's balls to the wall, and it's going off crazy. This movie, it hurts the film, in my opinion. But yeah, go take a watch. It's not gonna hurt. Go watch this movie. I seem to be in the minority for this, so I mean, take everyone else's opinion else on the account. Because my girlfriend loved this movie. She was like, this is amazing. And I'm just like, here, like, I need to take a shower, and I didn't like this. And I'm okay with those movies that are like, you know, go take a shower.
Great film.
American Psycho. And it goes really slowly for a good portion of it. And it's a film that you don't want to watch with your parents. It's a film that you don't want to exist in. And it's a great film. I love that film. But, this movie doesn't do it. It just... Yeah, like, there's other films that you should watch, like, go take a shower after it. This one is probably lower on that list than anything. But yeah, it can't hurt to go watch. It's not the worst movie in the world. You won't fucking regret your 2 hours that you spent watching this movie. Yeah, that's all I really have to say. I don't know why exactly. I do know why I didn't like it. I don't know why. I don't see it for other people. I don't see why other people might like it. Maybe it's just not. Again, like I said, it's just not my cup of tea. That's all I have to say about it. Like, in just the small bit point where I don't know what I don't know what I expected. I don't know what other people saw that I didn't see. And like I said, it's a little bit disappointing, but it's whatever. But thank you guys for watching. I am the Bad Duck, and you are the internet. And yeah, go see X. It's in theaters right now. X was some streaming coming up, and